Of what to expect for the overall benchmark at the Open. Cameron Peacock joins us from IG in Melbourne now. Cameron, what's your call for the Oz Market Open?
Yeah, good morning, Bridie. Look, we're looking at a fairly positive start for our market at this stage. We've got our market called up about 15 points, or about 0.3% up around that 45.72 level. I think it's going to be a day probably dominated by resource names. Overnight, we saw the iron ore price continuing to push higher. It's now sitting at $123.40 a tonne. That's the highest level since July this year, and that's likely to be a real boon for the likes of BHP, Rio Tinto and Fortescue. Of course, they all had very good sessions yesterday. I think Fortescue was up around 7% at one stage yesterday. And looking ahead to today, we've got BHP's ADR called up about 32 cents or 0.9%. So I think metals are going to drive, or materials names are certainly going to drive our market today. And we did see good broad-based strength across the commodity complex last night, as you just mentioned. Copper prices up 1%. I think we had nickel up 2.6%, and we had the likes of zinc and aluminium all up 1.5%. So, modest gains on the open, up about 0.3% or 15 points. But I think resource names are certainly going to dominate today.
It has to be said, just looking at the leads that we have from Wall Street, it wasn't really an eventful session, was it? As much as we can try and put a spin on it. Really, investors remain sidelined, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very uneventful session. We saw fairly choppy trading for most of the session. You had the Dow Jones up between sort of 3 or 4 points and maybe 30 points at its high. I think it finished up maybe about 14 points. I think, as you said, investors really just sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how these fiscal cliff negotiations play out. We did have President Obama speaking late in the session. I think he was addressing some factory workers in Detroit, Michigan, but that really failed to have much of an impact on the market. And it's really just a going through the motions process. I think we are, as I said yesterday, we're just going to chop around these current levels, depending on the daily headlines, the daily press conferences from the Republicans and the Democrats. That's really going to dictate sentiment heading into the end of the year.
Yeah, because there did seem to be a bit of concerns in financial markets overnight about the Italian political situation. I know we've been asking you about that. Of course, that weekend news of Mario Monti going to be stepping down early really seemed to spook markets overnight.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, political uncertainty has been one of the real bugbears of Europe for the last couple of years, and obviously Mario Monti came in with this technocrat government to try and stabilise Italy, which he has done so. And I think there has been, as I said, a little bit of stability across that country for some time. The fact that he's stepping down obviously, sparked fears that we could see some instability back in Italy. But I think he managed to allay those fears, and most of the major indices sort of quickly moved past it. I think we had the FTSE up 0.1%, the DAX and the CAC, pairing losses to finish up 0.2%. We saw the euro finishing a little bit higher in the end. It was really just the Italian market that suffered, and it was down about 2.2%. But largely, I think the markets have moved past that and a little bit more comfortable with where Europe sits at the moment.
Interesting seeing the moves in that currency zone. I mean, the euro was down, and the Aussie actually going above that, breaking through that 105 US cent level again. What do you think? I mean, is some of that due to the strength in commodities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Aussie dollar, as we know, is a very highly commodity correlated currency, and I think seeing iron ore prices pushing significantly higher, as I said, to the highest level since July last year, and seeing all of the base metals complex up quite strongly certainly helped the Aussie dollar. It's a little bit surprising to some extent, given that we did see fairly weak export numbers out of China yesterday, that we did see such a rally in commodity prices overnight. But by and large, the economic data coming out of China has been fairly positive, except for that maybe slightly weaker than expected export growth we saw yesterday.
All right, Cameron, thank you so much for that analysis. Yeah, still a couple of hours left till the start of the session. Thanks for that. Cameron Peacock there from IG.